every few days. And then we will work with them to get them back to work based off of what goes on there. Then you have to do that with every person that they had close contact with. We've been very successful at catching quite a few people and not having them introduce their symptoms into the facility. Thank goodness our Montcalm County, Michigan facility has not had any, but I have other facilities that I've had multiple cases. We got on it quickly, got them out of the building, followed our procedures, and now things are going smoother. So this really does help and work. And the smaller number of employees you have for an HR business partner, you know, the less people you need to have to control this type of response. But in a small business, you know, the crisis response team, somebody on that can be the rapid response team. So, so putting in place the crisis response team and the rapid response team to make quick decisions and ensure that we are complying with up-to-date guidance. Since February 2020, some of the things we've put in place, we've improved and changed all along the way. Our processes for social distancing, temperature checks, daily disinfecting protocol, emphasis on good hygiene and protective equipment. So I have a slide for each of those just to give you some poster examples and things that we've done on the floor. So social distancing. So on the left there, you will see that there is a poster that is on the employee entrance door. We do ask employees to review their so self-check before they walk through the door. And then we ask them to ask each of those questions to themselves. If it's yes, they need to go home, call their doctor, notify their supervisor, and call my quad. My quad for us is your HR, so that's me. If the answer is no to both, then they can enter the facility. So we have since, and I'll show you the next slide, we have then added an extra layer coming up this week. They're integrating it, and I'll show you that. We also have social distancing posters, floor markers. So the one there that's a triangle, those we had printed up, and we have those in 6-foot distance spots for time clocks or out by the vending machine, so people can get that visual of how far they're supposed to be away from people. And then we have the posters as well that kind of give the same guidance. So as I said, we had an extra layer that we've been implementing. So over the last few weeks, Quad has rolled out temperature checkpoints. Because we're doing this as a corporate-wide, there is many of my states that do require temperature checks. So we find the value in it. And so all of our facilities are rolling this out. So, so as you see there, once they come through the door, they will see this sign on the left that says this is a temperature checkpoint. Now, depending on which facility they're in, this infrared camera is one of the different brands we're using, but they just stand on a marker on the floor, look at the camera, it takes the temperature of their tear duct, and it says yes or no, green or red. If it's green, they get to go right out on the floor and continue with their day. If it's red, it could be a false positive, so then they move left, the different direction than the green people go. They go left into another checkpoint, and that you'll see the bottom picture, which isn't all the way set up because we'll have a plexiglass divider there, but they use a handheld, non-touch scanner to scan that person's temperature. And then if it is red again, then they do the same protocol that sign on the door said. They're going to go home, they're going to call their doctor, they're going to call my quad, and then we're going to put them through that rapid response team. Just in the first few days in one of my facilities that was having some positive cases, we did catch 3 people in the first week coming in with fevers. So having said that, it's really important that that everybody takes this serious. Even if you don't agree, there's so many political things out there, even if you don't agree with everything, in order for all of us to be safe, we have to follow the protocol and do everything we can, because the employee safety is what we need. So next is the disinfectant protocol. We did put in daily disinfectant protocol. So Quad has made sure that we have disinfectant materials available all through the press rooms. Where they're bleach bottles with the appropriate mix. They have gloves and all of those things. They make sure they disinfect pre-shift, post-shift, their areas during shift. So people are continuing disinfecting their areas. It's starting to smell like a swimming pool. So, and then if somebody has come to the rapid response team and we're waiting for a testing, or we did have them quarantined, we use a different kit. We have the supervisors come out. It has about the same things. It just has increased PPE in it, and they do a deeper clean of where that person worked. So those are things that we've done. Now, like I said, in one of my other facilities, we had, again, multiple people that were positive. So we did close that facility for 48 hours and brought in an outside company. They went in and did a complete deep clean and a fog, which will completely sanitize everything there. Then we started open back up. And we made sure that we were following, again, all these protocol. And so far, we've 2 weeks from that, and we haven't had any additional cases. So doing well there. The good hygiene, again, we have posters out there. We make sure we do have all of this is not only posters, but supervisors, they're getting emails, they're getting all of these different resources, making sure we're emphasizing this as well. And then last but not least, protective equipment. So it was important that Quad confirmed with the procurement alternatives, and I'm sure everybody being in the business, procurement became a hot commodity. Trying to find where we can confirm what stock we had on hand, where we can get stock of everything we need. Then once it's in-house, how do we control it so it's not just being overused or disappearing? So that was a whole process that we had to get in place to make sure we had everything to support our employees on being safe. But some employees also got very creative, have their own personal masks, which is very acceptable. So we do have a poster out there just so they can keep in mind that it has to be conform to our safety things. So it has to be secure fitting, nothing loose or dangling. And then there's examples of non-acceptable. The reason the top one's not acceptable, it's below the neckline. In manufacturing, you don't want anything that's going to be dangling or anything. And the bottom one, because the strings dangle down over her shoulders. So, and then, so Quad has, for innovative, we have opened up a couple of our print machines, and we converted them to making masks. So we are also making our own Quad masks, supplying all of our employees with those, and our ink supplier, which is also Quad owned, CRT, they have converted some of their processes, and we're making hand sanitizer also, because those are some things that procurement were having challenges with. So that's what we did there as well. So having gone over the crisis response team, the rapid response team, so that we can keep the company viable, and then what we've implemented in each facility, I just want to add on that real quick. The other thing is, as volume goes down, we have to furlough individuals. We felt much better with that, with the $600 extra that they got, because we knew they were being taken care of. And so we've been doing rolling furloughs, and this also helped have less people in the facilities to, so they had more room to stay socially distant. Any questions?
Thank you very much for that, Nena. That's great nuts and bolts stuff that I know I certainly got a lot out of. One question that came through the chat was a clarification on the temperature scanner and whether that does work through the plexiglass.
In the plexiglass, they are going to have a square cut out where they would put that up to, and so it does not go through the plexiglass, but they will have a little window cut out, just a little tiny one that scan will go through.
Okay. So I didn't have any more. Oh, you know what? Here's another one. Cindy, Cindy, you want to ask your question real quick to Nena? You can unmute yourself. Cindy Preston.
I just wondered if any of those posters that you had were available as a printable doc. What was your source to get those?
Being a large company, we're very, very fortunate to have our own communications department. So I can definitely ask and see if I'm able to share them. If so, I will definitely do that.
That would be so helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be something that I'm making a note of, and Nena,
Yes.
if that is possible, that's something that we could send out as our follow-up to everybody who was in the session. Yeah, yeah.
One other thing that I know that we're doing, it just came to mind because I sat into one last night, is a lot of employees are trying to understand this CARES Act and, oh, I get to have my 401k money, and there's this whole ball of hurry up and get my money type of thing going on. So we did partner with our retirement fund agent of record, because everybody would have a different one, and they did provide us with something similar to what we're on right now, and they set up multiple things for employees to go on to. It not only walks through what the CARE Act is and how they partner with the company and things that they need to think about, short-term emergency versus long-term retirement, but then they also go through a lot of budgeting and how they can help create more money by budgeting and reducing some things. So there's a lot of those things that we've also in Quad have been reaching out to our vendors and getting for our employees.
Hey, just for reference there, Nena, could you tell a little bit about the company, you know, what size you are? In Greenville, you have about 200 employees, but, you know, corporate wide and so on, what you do, just so people have a reference.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Quad is, it's constantly changing. That's something that we're very good at, keeping up with the way the economy changes and everything. So it started out as a print company. We do then have moved from a small little company in Wisconsin in 1971 of about 15 people to now we're at about 20,000 people, and we're worldwide. In the United States, we have all different all different facilities, but each facility has kind of its own bailiwick. So the Greenville, Michigan one, we do direct mail. So we work heavily with the post office. We do have postal service on site in our facility as well. So we do a lot of direct mail. So when you get your TSCs and all of those types of postcards in the mail, we've printed those. We're also happy to say that Quad had been selected by the government, the White House. We've printed all of the COVID postcards that went out to tell people different things to do, and we've been working on the stimulus package printouts and stuff as well. So there's that type of thing, like for grocery and for hardware that we print. We also pretty much, a lot of the magazines that are out there in the grocery store, we print those. But not only do we print those, we do have a marketing portion that takes the layouts, the photo shoots, and all of those things. We also print textbooks, college textbooks. And we have packaging. I mean, the sky's the limit. We are now changed what they call Quad 3.0. We are a total, we go into a company and help them with solutions. We don't just print for them and say, here, you need to print. we go in and look at not only their television commercials, their books, their magazine placements, their how do they drive business to their brick and mortars. We do the whole package for them. So that's a little bit about us, and we continue to change.
All right. Thank you so much, Nena. I appreciate all that
Yeah.
and the context as well. So now at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Cindy Brown, VP of Talent Initiatives at The Right Place.
I did stop sharing.
All right. Awesome. And I'm going to, Cindy, if you want to get rolling, I'll pull your
Sure.
info up here in a sec.
Absolutely. Thank you, Travis. And Nena, that was amazing work. So thank you for sharing all that great information. So in my role at Talent Initiatives at The Right Place, do a little bit of everything. And right now, as employers are going between triage and transition, I just wanted to fill you in very quickly on what I've been hearing. A lot of questions from employers on unemployment. And so I just personally would like to thank Carrie. Thank you so much for being on this call with us. And when I reached out to UIA, Carrie answered, so just thank you. I know there's going to be a lot of questions for you, so I'm going to keep moving on. And but basically, we'll have a slide up that's going to walk you through some of the things that relate to the resources that I've been, hearing the questions. What, as employers, what do we do about employees? What do we do about, how do we find employees? What can we do? So I want to just really talk about West Michigan Works. So they're doing a fabulous job. They transitioned from in-person to virtual very quickly when needed. And they're going to be hosting their second virtual job fair, May 20th and 21st. As an employer, you have the opportunity to register by May 8th. And the candidates will be applying for opportunities or registering for opportunities next week. So not only should you register if you're looking for people, but also you should also get the information out to your community that if there are people that have been laid off with no return to companies, not furloughed, that, if they're looking for other opportunities, if you're going to be attending, definitely let the candidates know and let your community people know that there's this opportunity, so we can get a lot of candidates for the employers that need help at this time. We also have on the Right Place's website a Restart library, and we're seeing Restart playbooks from so many different resources out there, and we're trying to put the big ones as well as some of the smaller mid-sized employers as well. Whatever we receive, we're putting up there so that you as manufacturers and employers can see how do I restart my business if I haven't had to do so yet, and what does that playbook look like? Nena gave a great example of what they've been doing. So we understand that every business is different, but we know that you need to start somewhere, and these playbooks are a great place to start. From a partnership perspective, we have a strategic partner that's in-house at The Right Place called Hello West Michigan. And I just want to touch on this briefly because Hello West Michigan was started officially 10 years ago, 2010. So you can imagine it was right around the Great Recession. And the whole purpose of Hello West Michigan is to attract talent to West Michigan, as well as then help them get connected. And we were started in the Great Recession, and now we have this situation that we're going on through right now with COVID-19. I will tell you, I'm seeing a lot of people that are looking to move back home from big cities. So we focus in on the boomerang, the Michigan boomerang specifically, and I will tell you, this is, as things begin to maybe, get back to, what sense of normal or the new normal or whatever it's called, we're going to see people wanting to move back. So there will be candidates that are looking to relocate back to the area with a Michigan tie, and they'll be bringing people with them, their family members. So just keep that in the back of your mind that, yes, it's tough right now with our candidate pools. And at the time before COVID, we were low unemployment. Now we've got a higher unemployment, but there's still going to be people available for opportunities. In addition to that, we also have West Michigan Intern Connect. So the pipeline, what do we do with our pipeline? And not the K through 12 pipeline as much I'm talking about right here, but like a more fluid pipeline. What can you do right now as employers? if you were going to have an internship program and you're still debating, please, if you can financially afford it, please do it. We have resources that are available with an employer internship training session on May 13th, where we're going to have Spartan Nash as well as OST, so a larger employer and a smaller employer, both talk and give experiences and give their best practices on how you would continue to have an internship program and have it remote during this time period. So a lot of good information about candidates and what do we do, and resources like the West Michigan Works Job Fair and their website with their information too on how to get a hold of them for you to take a look at. One last thing I want to just touch on really quickly is we will be very excited to have a representative from the Department of Labor Economic Opportunity, LEO, who's going to be speaking with a group of our employers on Friday at 11 o'clock specifically about the WorkShare program. So there's been some new updates, some different things that are pretty employer friendly for our employers. And so we want to make sure that you are able to get your questions answered. So that that will be at 11 o'clock on Friday, May 8th. When Travis sends the follow-up, he'll send that information as well, and you can register for that webinar too. So once again, you know, your business developers that Travis introduced, they're there for you. They can get to me. He'll have my information on there too. You can connect directly with me. Whatever we can do to help answer your questions, and if we can't answer them, we're going to get to the right players so that we can make sure those questions get answered. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Travis.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. And you mentioned West Michigan Works on here as well. And just a little bit of clarification, the way our region is broken out, we do have two West Michigan Works, or excuse me, we have two Michigan Works organizations serving our region. There's West Michigan Works and then Michigan Works West Central that serves the northern portion of our region. And I believe Shelley is on the call today. Shelley, is there anything you wanted to elaborate on from your perspective for those counties that you serve?
Sure, thank you. So Michigan Works West Central, we actually too are holding virtual job fairs the week of May 18th. Jonathan Epley is on the call here. He is our business services rep that covers Newaygo County, and then Oceana and Lake County, Mary Bennett does. So they are reaching out to employers. I know Oceana County, there's a ton that's interested in it. So stay tuned for that information. John, I don't know if we have the dates nailed down yet.
We don't know. We're still working with employers to kind of set those dates based on their availability.
Right. So we will be promoting that as well. So that's for the northern 6 counties of Region 4. Thanks, Travis.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And I believe Olivia from West Michigan Works that serves Ionia and Montcalm. Olivia, anything you want to add from your perspective?
Just the same, just reiterate that our job fair employers can register by May 8th. We had a good turnout the last time that we did this, so this is our second virtual job fair, and it will be May 20th and 21st. Employers do need to register by May 8th in order to participate. And then they are set up in 15-minute increments for you to have a conversation with a potential job seeker.
Right, awesome. And I know Cindy mentioned it earlier, but the stuff that you guys are doing with Michigan Works and all the different things that you've had flying at you, you know, the past 2 months and that sort of thing. Kudos to all of you guys for all the good work that you're doing out there, because this is uncharted territory for everybody, and it has to be challenging out there. So good job to you guys. And so at this point, I want to turn it over to Carrie with UIA to mention anything that you specifically wanted to. And also just remember, if anybody has questions for Nena, Cindy, or Carrie as we get into the unemployment discussion, go ahead and shoot them to me in the chat.
All right, good morning, everyone. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys regarding unemployment. I was wondering if anyone had additional questions to get started. I did answer 3 questions. I'm hopeful that they've been shared with you. So I'll just go ahead and allow you all to start asking your questions.
So One question that was asked, and I do have those answers that you sent out, Carrie. I'll bring those up on screen here in a sec. But one question that we had right out of the gate, Nancy, do you want to ask yours real quick? Nancy, you still on?
Yep, I'm still here. Hi, Carrie. Is there a direct email or phone number that we can get a hold of Michigan Unemployment? I know they're bombarded right now, but we have, like, I'm sure we're the same with everybody else. There's some people that aren't getting it, some people that are. We really can't tell when we're being responded to.
To be quite honest, the lines that we have are the 866-500-0017 number. That's the claimant customer support line. In all honesty, if I'm talking to an employer and they need assistance, I just give them my email address. And I don't have a phone number at home because when we came home, we didn't bring our work phones. So email, I think, is probably the best way. And then I can get it to a connection to help out that employer with their folks that still may be having some issues. Understand we've got almost over 100,000 issues that we need to close. I think when this whole pandemic started, people did not realize that we are using the last 4 of the 5 completed quarters, and it includes every employer that's within that base period. So unless the separation is other than a layoff, you know, they're going to experience some hiccups. And because we are working to get all those implementations in, which we started with the PUC, the 600, then we got the PUA in, and now we're all working on getting those issues closed. So I'm okay if you send me an email. I promise to get back with you within the 24 to 48 hour period. But just know that our warehouse is about 3 weeks behind because of the large volume of mail that we are getting. I think we're scanning in right now 420. So today is 5/6. So we're almost about a good 2 weeks behind. That's slowly closing in. It was 3. So we're working as hard as we can to get that. And we're also encouraging employers to advise their staff if they've sent us one web message, that is plenty, because the more that they send is the more for us to try to reply to. We have the chat feature available of the day. We have the send a web notice after hours. We'll do the best we can to get with you. Again, if you email me, just allow me that time. I will respond back to you, and we'll get, the issues addressed just as quick as we can.
So Carrie, a couple questions I've gotten through are just kind of expressing a little bit of frustration with not being able to get through on the phone, or gets cut off and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You mentioned emailing you. Is that something that, and I don't want to bombard you, either, but is your email address something that can be shared with this group to maybe facilitate some conversation?
For right now, until we're able to get stuff caught up and we get a more normal, regular rhythm where we're able to communicate. I mean, I didn't come on this call to just say, sorry,
right.
Go through the normal protocol. And we understand just as much as anybody else out there, we want the people to get paid that are certainly entitled. We understand the hardships that are going on. And again, that's our agency's goal, is to get as many people paid properly as possible.
Somebody, I think it was Teresa, had a question about her employer account being locked, trying to reset the password and can't get through on the phone. Is that something that you could help her with directly?
I sure can. Yep, I have that access.
Okay, so what I'll do, is I'll follow up in the email follow up to everybody after this. With your permission, Carrie, I'll add your email address to that. As a contact for folks to follow up with. So I definitely appreciate you being willing to do that for this group, definitely. Ellen, you had a question about if an employee refuses to return to work. Do you want to ask that? Ellen, are you still on?
Me, Ellen?
Ellen Bengry?
Not me, Ellen. Thank you.
Okay, that's all right. Well, I can ask it then. If an employee, and honestly, this is something that we've been hearing a little bit about too. If an employee refuses to return to work, either it's perceived as more lucrative to stay home, with the additional $600 and that sort of thing. Can an employer refuse unemployment because of that? Like, how does that work? There's a lot of concern out there that's like, I'm not going to be able to get my people back because it's too nice to be able to stay home and collect that additional money.
Right. So this has been a common question that we have heard from our employer community about this. What can an employer do? We want them to notify the agency of a worker or claimant that has refused the suitable normal work that they have done in the past. Now, I don't know if many employers know this, but because of the COVID situation, the governor has not, she's waived charges for all employer accounts if it's due to COVID until August 1st. So employers are not getting a copy of the chargeable statements. But what we do want our employer community is to be our partner to help make sure that we are paying people properly. So as things start to ramp up within the employer's sectors and people start refusing because they feel something isn't safe, but what I just seen from is it Nena that submitted all that nice stuff, what the safe, workplace requirements are going to be, there is no reason why our staff shouldn't be returning back in the normal capacity. So we want them to submit something to us as soon as they can. We are waiting for the implementation on how to respond to that. Right now, if you're faxing information into us, it's probably going to take a couple weeks before we get the issues open regarding refusal of work, or you can go in through the view benefit charge and credits. But if people email me, I can always send out the steps in the MyWAM account to report that information. Or I can send it to you to share out in a blast or, to your folks in your group here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one.
And then Carol had a question as well, I think, for Carrie.
Okay.
Carol Whipple? No? It was kind of a specific question, I think, regarding an account and how it's showing in the system. So maybe that can just be a follow-up via email.
That'll work.
And then Lorenda Davis, you had a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So do we report as employees trickle back into work? Does the employer reply to the return to work date on our account?
Yeah, that's going to be something that you're still not going to be aware of because you're not going to get the notice of chargeable statements. But I would make it very clear to people as they're coming back to the full-time status that you're going to receive a cross-match forms, which we do every quarter anyway. So as the second quarter gets ready to end, we'll be sending out the cross-match forms to validate each week that these people collected unemployment, that if they had wages that they reported, and if they didn't, we certainly will set up restitution. We have also implemented a new fraud statement on each certification week that these folks are certifying for. So if they check that box and say, yeah, I understand, I'm not trying to obtain benefits that I know I'm not entitled to, and they check the box and collect the week, the agency has the right to set up fraud. And we're just hopeful that everybody is being very mindful to those check boxes as they try to collect unemployment. And if they are underemployed, certainly we want them to report their gross amount of wages. So that way we're making sure we're paying properly. And the pandemic unemployment compensation is effective until 7/25. So after that, there's no more extra 600. It does sound lucrative not to come back to work, but the bottom line is that it was set up to help out, in a time of true need. Not I'm back to work or I'm not going back and I can still collect. That's just not going to be an option. unless they quit.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And then Mary asked a question, I guess still looking for some clarification on if an employee doesn't feel safe returning. Mary, was your question answered, or do you want to ask it?
Here, thank you so much. I was on a different webinar earlier this week, and we're with Star Safety Shield. Thank you. I just don't have my picture up there because I don't have my makeup on. But I was on a separate webinar this week, a human resources webinar, and I heard that if an employee says, I don't feel safe coming back, I'm not ready, that the $600 PUC and the unemployment benefits would still continue because of COVID. Under normal circumstances, the employee would be, okay, if you're saying you're not coming back to work, you're terminated, and then it would have been a different world back before COVID. So I guess I'm still not clear of the PUC payments and unemployment benefits. If they don't feel comfortable coming back to work and they say that, as an employer, what are we obligated to do? And does that employee still continue to get unemployment? Probably because they're wanting to take advantage of the $600 a week and, whatnot.
Right, so just based on what I've seen with what Nena has showed everyone regarding the safe steps that are being incorporated, the employer is going to make sure that the work environment is still very safe for everyone to come back. We're still doing the social distancing. We're wearing the PPE gear. The spacing is correct. We're doing the temperatures. We're doing everything you can on the employer's side. What's changed is the fear that I might, get COVID while I'm at work in a safe work environment. You still have to go through the process and protest. Until the agency gets all the facts. And of course, the employer is going to show the agency, this is what we have done, whether we hosted an open house to show this is the new way of work in the future. We just going to have to rely on the employer to give us all that substantial information that they've done to make the work environment as safe as it can be. And we're gonna, give a decision on that issue if they had good cause to quit, which in all honesty, it doesn't sound like they're gonna really have good cause to quit because you're doing all the necessary steps you can to make sure everybody is safe. I looked at those sheets. Those are very informative and very clear, and I'm sure most of you have probably already adopted them if you've already started the back to work process. So we would encourage you to protest and give the agency that information of what you have done. They may continue to get paid until we get that decision out, because once somebody's in pay status, we can't take them out until we've issued a decision to hold them ineligible or disqualified for unemployment.
So there were a couple other questions that were submitted that appeared to be pretty specific to a particular issue or client or that sort of thing. Carrie has been super awesome about responding to questions that Cindy and I put together in our rural team. So what I'm going to do is just kind of defer those to have you follow up with Carrie after this and ask those specific questions. And since we only have a few minutes left, I wanted to kind of open it up to the group. And, Nena did an awesome job of kind of explaining kind of what their company did to kind of deal with this and to make things as streamlined as possible and that sort of thing, kind of adapting to the new normal. I'd be interested in hearing what anybody else out there, what your company has done. It could be some big aha moment you had, or just some sort of little detail that just made life easier at your company dealing with this stuff. So any best practices or bright ideas for anybody to share? Kind of open forum right now. No? And anybody who's working with different companies out there? Cindy, you talk with a lot of people. Ben Wood with MMTC, you talk to a lot of folks. Anything that you guys are hearing or seeing out there that maybe hasn't been brought up in this conversation yet?
Just to reiterate the communication, Nena showed great examples of information shared with their teammates. You can, when you figure out and configure your office space or your factory floor, however it is, take pictures and send it to the team and let them know ahead of time, this is what it is. We fear the unknown, and right now the unknown is what's going to happen to me if I go out of my safety zone of my house. And so, if you can be proactive with them and just continue to communicate. Nena has talked about that a lot, and Carrie's talked about that, and just the communication with your employees is so, so important at this time. Maybe that would alleviate some of that thought about, well, I should just stay on here because it's better to get the unemployment. I'm going to make more there or do whatever, because the long term, your company and your opportunities are going to be a lot better than that short term little jump in their spike if, in their pay. So communication.
I would agree with that, Cindy. One thing that has been coming to me a lot, a question is the HIPAA rules, the HIPAA regulations, and, doing temperature checks. Is that legal? So I'm getting a lot of legal questions about this. And of course, I am no lawyer and I'm not an HR expert. So, this was all very good information. And Nena, have you ran into any issues, any employees saying, hey, you can't check my temperature, you can't ask me all these questions and what I do in my spare time? Has that ever been a concern or an issue?
I know we have a lawyer that we do have our conversations with. And as long as we're trying to, when we're taking the temperatures and stuff, as long as we're trying to, we don't have a bunch of people standing there watching them, and if they get a green or they get a red, there's one person at a time because they're having a 6-foot distance. So as long as we're trying to keep their privacy, we haven't had any employees refuse or anything. And from my understanding from our quad med and from our lawyer, that asking those questions would not fall into HIPAA if they, we can't force them to give us the questions, but we definitely can ask those questions. So we're not asking them about their specific illnesses or what kind of medicine they're taking or anything like that. We're asking basic questions. Yeah, and then we are forwarding them to their doctor. We just ask the screening questions that CDC has, and we're forwarding them to their doctor.
I would assume that since it's a safety issue, that it's legit to ask those questions. But again, I don't know. So I think the information on here is very helpful. That's all I have. Travis, I'll hand it back to you. I did see, 2 more questions from Cindy and Amy come in.
Yep, and Melody had her hand raised a little bit ago. So Melody, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My name is Melody, and I actually just wanted to share. You asked people to share kind of what they're doing in their businesses to help things along, and I just wanted to share that I do CNA training, and I have 3 schools in the state. And so we are training the frontline healthcare workers, and our business never stops. So we had to immediately implement plans right as soon as everything was mentioned back in March. So we jumped on the ball right away, and we started making sure that we were taking measures to prevent the spread of infection in our training facilities, and as well as our students that go to the nursing homes for training too. So just kind of a different outlook, I guess, on from what we have as opposed to some other people, because we're right in it. So we're just doing everything everybody else is. We're making sure everybody answers questionnaires when they come into the classroom. Everybody's entering through one door. The teacher's doing temperature checks on all of the students. We're logging everything. Everybody has to wash their hands upon entering and exiting the building. We're gonna start implementing every 2-hour sanitation breaks, just where everybody can make sure that every 2 hours they wash their hands. They've been taking care of themselves, because not only is this about everybody keeping clean, but this is also about people being healthy and taking care of themselves and making sure you're sleeping and making sure you're getting proper nutrition. And, so I think it's important that we also make sure everybody's not only being clean, but being healthy and supporting that in them too. So that's just some things that we've done as frontline healthcare workers training, and it seems to be working pretty well, and we have had everybody on the ball and compliant with everything that we're doing. So I guess if anybody has any questions about any of that, I'll be willing to answer them.
Yeah, thanks for that, Melody. And I did want to point everyone to the chat box real quick. There were a couple of folks. Olivia with West Michigan Works commented that they can also assist with any password resets and that sort of thing that you might need. So you can contact your Michigan Works person for that. And then Harmony with Consumers Energy, she wanted to let everybody know that there's some resources out there if your businesses or employees are struggling to pay your energy bills and that sort of thing if you're served by consumers. So her information, and there are a couple of contact numbers there in the chat string, just as an FYI for everybody. One thing I wanted to do, I know we're a couple minutes after noon, so out of respect for everybody's time, what I'll do is just kind of thank everybody for being here. If you need to leave, go ahead and take off. But if anybody wants to stick around, there were a handful more questions that we can still get to. But I don't want anybody to feel like they have to stick around if you need to jet and if you've got something else on. So like I said, we'll be sending out a follow-up email to everybody who is on here, asking a couple questions for feedback. Hopefully, as long as the recording worked, a link to that. And some of the additional stuff that we talked to. I think Julie was taking some notes with what all we need to include with that. We do have 6 more upcoming sessions in this kind of rural roundtable series. If there's anybody that you work with, anybody that you know, friends, family, associates that fall into any of these categories, feel free to spread the word. And you know, this is something where we're really hoping to bring some good tips and stuff to folks in our rural counties. So appreciate everybody being here. So officially, we'll say that's time. But anybody who wants to stick around, Cindy and Nena and Carrie, if you've got a few extra minutes and wouldn't mind sticking around to answer a couple more questions, that would be sweet. There was Amy asked a question about PPE. Amy, are you still on? You want to ask that?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi. Yeah, I just wondered if anybody had any specific tips. I run a fairly small shop, and I know in the larger companies it's a little bit easier to implement all of these procedures and all these changes because you can, you know, you just have that authority at being a big shop. But, you know, I'm talking about companies under 10 employees where, you know, you have a certain amount of resistance to, you know, oh, we don't need to do that, and you're not going to make us do that, are you? And all that. It's kind of experience a little bit more resistance to that. And I just was wondering if anybody had any tips as to how to, you know, convince people effectively to cooperate with these.
Yeah, I can tell you from our perspective at the Right Place, our building, or our staff is about 35, I believe it is, and we have about 15 people that are on the road most of the time. So you'd say about 20 people are there most of the time, right? And we just kind of sort of got our first draft of our playbook going forward, and we're starting out by voluntary because we can do remote, you know, and remote's working. And the stress of going back to a physical building for us with remote and office work is probably more stressful to have to put a mask on to talk to people and wash your hand, you know, and constant and all of that than for us to continue working remotely. So we've tried to stay in contact with our folks as much as we possibly can. And then we're also going to try to our plan is not as intense as Nena's was, because obviously on the manufacturing floor, but we're trying to be that both, where it's personal responsibility, and it's like the last person spoke that talked about it's the human psyche and everything that's going on with the human being. You either, now it's gotten so political, you either believe it or you don't, and I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And we're trying to stay neutral with all of that. So I know we're an office, so it's a little bit different than a manufacturer, but we're trying to stay in contact with our employees as much as we possibly can to explain why we're trying to do it. If you don't want to wear a mask to the grocery store, that's your choice. But if someone else is sick and they give it to you, you're the one that's going to be in the hospital, and you're the one that's going to be, and if you want to take your chances, okay. But, you know, I guess, I don't know, it's more of a, is the communication with the people and why we're trying to do it, right? Because it gets more into, instead of being, you know, you got to do it. It's more of a, hey, this is why we're trying to be safe, so we don't have to go through it at our location. I don't know if that helps because we're more of an office than a manufacturer, but.
Amy, if I can step in, and Cindy, you made some really good points. When it comes to PPE, I try to be known, and I guess I am known for making things simple. When it's a safety issue, which COVID is it's a safety issue. Think of it like this. There's jobs where I've worked where I was dealing with steel, aluminum, dyes, whatever it was, and because of the weight of the products that we were dealing with, we had to wear steel toe boots or a composite material where the steel can, if it comes down, the steel doesn't cut your toes off. That's a requirement because it's a safety issue. This is a safety issue. So I think, to answer your question, if they want to, for the lack of a better phrase, argue the point of PPE, face masks, face shields, safety glasses, whatever it is, not only is this an executive order, I mean, this is a safety concern, and you're affecting the health and well-being of those around you. You as a business owner are allowed to set standards and require people to wear certain safety stuff. And I see Nena shaking her head up and down, which makes me want to keep going because I think I'm saying this right, Nena. Thank you. But that's your call. And I don't think attacking them is a good idea, but I think educating them and saying we're doing this to keep you safe. And if OSHA walks in here and you're doing something just like if you were handling a dye and you don't have the proper PPE on, we're going to get fined. You know, so this is really not up for discussion. This is what it is. And, you know, just educating them on that, keeping those communication lines open. And as things change, you know, you can update them. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, Amy, is just, it's your house, your rules. And if it kind of sounds blunt, but they pretty much have to abide by that.
Yeah, and I found, you know, how we've addressed it is pretty much the same, even though we're a lot of different facilities, but a larger company. We have come down to the fact of if people, even supervisors or managers, are not taking these implementations of things serious, it can lead to disciplinary action. But we want to educate all of them, but if it's just blatant and they're like, none of my people have to do any of that, that's going to be blatant, and we will definitely, you know, our values of a company, we want to keep somebody safe, so we're going to have to implement some disciplinary action.
Thank you, guys. Cindy, Preston, you had a question about how much you can or can't communicate with laid off employees?
Yeah, I did. I have all of our staff, we're small, I'm a Habitat for Humanity, so our restore is not open and they're laid off. I know I can text them and say, you know, thinking about you, hope you're having a good day. But can I tell them anything legally about what's going on at work or what changes are happening before I call them back?
I mean, I know for our company, we have made an extra effort to keep those employees in touch. My husband was out of work for about 6 weeks. His company did the same thing. They were a smaller company. They did do mass text messages, just giving updates, and communicated some of the things that they were putting in place for upon return, so that when he had to return this last Monday, he wasn't scared of the unknown. He knew they were going to have some COVID training. They were going to have PPE, and that they were going to learn that first before they stepped out on the floor. So I think it's good to keep the communication up, and I have not heard of anything saying we're not able to. I mean, they have a return to work date, or we know they're going to be coming back. They're our employee. We should be able to, and I think we should keep them in the loop so they're not feeling out there in the unknown.
Okay, I just have one employee who, if I send a text, she's like, I thought I was not working. And, you know, it's just like, it's really just information. I'm not asking for a response or asking questions about work. I'm just trying
and if they're choosing to not want, I mean, you're not asking them perform any work things, because our people that are on furlough, we make it very clear, especially salary people, you are not to check your email, answer your emails, you're not to do this or that. But the updates, they can choose to go out there and look up if they would like, or read those. So if she's asking you not to text her, then I would just comply with that. Because some people have to pay per text.
Sure.
Good clarification on that. Thank you. And I think the last item, I guess that looked like it was really worth sharing. Lisa, you had some, I think some really clarifying thoughts on kind of people returning to work and that sort of thing. Lisa, do you want to elaborate on that? Make sure you unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yep, sorry. Yes, we've had a lot of conversations about this, and I can't remember, there are 6 or 7 bullets under the CARES Act originally of why we're getting the $600. They mirror a lot like the Families First reasons. So if an employee cannot document or certify why they cannot return, then we start to coach them through the process of, look, if you don't return, I'd say give them a week, maybe half a week. That says if you don't return or provide documentation, we will consider you to have voluntarily quit, which means that unemployment benefits will end. So will health care and other benefits on these dates. So just kind of coaching through that, and definitely going through the unemployment to appeal as well. That one's been a hot topic for us lately.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And then Penny, you had a thought on telehealth and whatnot?
Yes, I'm Penny Dennis from the Right Door, Ionia, Michigan. I have been amazed the difference that this has made in our organization as a whole. My job is not part of the medical staff, so it's probably going to be a little bit longer before I return. But almost right away, we went to working with telehealth, meeting with people online. We do have some people in the office, but it's mainly the nurses, the doctors, and that's even very limited. Our leadership staff has been there, and they've been fantastic at letting us know what's going on, and we still get emails about safety and what to do from the administrative person that takes care of that and our hazard response. But it's just been such a eye-opening experience. And my experience working with people, helping them find employment, I've had so many people that I've worked with that have had trouble with computers. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges I've had in my career, is working with people who don't know how to use them. So it's just been a really great experience with a lot of these people now being forced to use a computer. To be able to keep in touch and to be able to have their appointments online. So yeah, I've just been quite impressed by the whole process. I know we also been putting out different Facebook, short live series and, whatever, we can do to, I just think it's great. They're just trying to keep our staff excited and motivated the best we can, because we really are working with the people, trying to keep them positive that are, at more critical risk at this time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely adjusting for everybody. That's for sure. I know it's kind of starting to sound kind of cliche, but this new normal is something that we're all going to be dealing with for quite some time. So I guess with that, I think we've pretty much covered everything question wise. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. On behalf of the Right Place and our rural team, certainly appreciate your time. Feel free to reach out to any of us who serve your counties if there's anything we can do to help your business during this time, and be looking for our follow-up email with some additional info and all that good stuff. So I guess with that, take care, everybody. Stay safe, wash your hands, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.